Coming up in the news, road works underway in the east. BUT assessing the start of the school term. And NEMA counting down to the close of the hurricane season. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. Topping news, relief is in sight for residents of East Grand Bahama as work is now underway to the main thoroughfare connecting East End to Freeport. The roadway was severely damaged following the passage of Hurricane Dorian. And last week, irate residents demanded that something be done to the road that they say was taking a toll on their health and their vehicles. As Ramiko Knowles tells us tonight, that appeal for help has been heard.
Good news for residents of East Grand Bahama as the long-awaited road repairs are now underway. CEO and legal counsel for the Grand Bahama Development Company and Lucaya Service Company, Cherise Brown, says they have heard the cry of residents in the area.
We certainly understand the concerns of the residents, particularly those in the east, because they have to travel that road every single day. And at the moment, traversing it is difficult. And so the team at LUSCO, together with our partners, we're working really hard to make sure that we have a permanent and sustainable solution as quickly as possible.
In the short term and as a temporary measure, fill is being trucked to the area in order to provide a drivable surface.
And we anticipate that that will be completed in just over a week or so. So by the end of October 2020, we would have those works completed.
Now, according to Brown, the long-term solution is to remove the road surface and replace the culvert running underneath, which allows for water to flow freely. She says this is expected to be completed by the end of the year.
The culvert is really some piping that runs underneath the road, and what it does is it allows the water from the mangrove to the north of the road to flow freely to the south of the road and eventually into the ocean. Once that culvert is replaced, then we can rebuild the road on top of it, and as a final step, apply the asphalt topping.
Chief Building Manager at the Grand Bahama Development Service for the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Dudley Francis, explains the work that is ongoing.
As Ms. Brown would have mentioned, there will be the installation of a drainage system. We anticipate that at the interrupt of the road where it's the most adversely affected, there will be at least 2 points of main drainage, cross drainage across the road to ensure we have that through movement of the water beneath the road system. So in going through that exercise, the contractor would put in the drainage pipe, and the type of piping system that we're looking at, it's something that will be more durable than what was in there in the past.
Both say that it has been a long process, but their teams are working hard to carry out the work required. Now motorists are being reminded to exercise caution when traveling in this area. Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
The National Emergency Management Agency is counting down to the close of the Atlantic hurricane season. The country was brushed with a few weather systems this season, but it pales in comparison to the destruction caused by Superstorm Dorian last year. Tonight, officials say the close may be just over a month away, but vigilance is still key. Jamila Mizik reports.
November 30th marks the close of the Atlantic hurricane season, but NEMA supplies officer on Grand Bahama and deputy co-chair for the Grand Bahama Disaster Consultative Committee, Tammy Mitchell, says even though the end of the hurricane season is near, the disaster committee has not let its guard down.
We've continued our vigilance with the weather patterns. We've also continued our meetings to ensure that all of our emergency support function groups remain in a state of readiness. One thing we want to point out to the residents is that because we know a lot of homes are still undergoing repairs, this is where you also have to be a little more careful, in particularly with your debris pileup and with the removal of the debris from your homes and the locations where these things could actually become missiles. So it's important that The hurricane season is not over, so we want everybody to be aware of that.
She says they've also seen a number of areas where flooding is becoming an issue.
Particularly in the west and in some areas in the city of Freeport, and also in some areas out east where we've seen that the flooding is coming off or across because of creeks and different things. So because you know that these areas are prone to flooding or flooding is occurring, we want you to take all of the necessary precautions to protect yourself as well as your property. And that is something that we're always actively looking at. So every avenue in terms of disaster preparedness is still going on for the island of Grand Bahama.
And this year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Mitchell says they have had to make adjustments, particularly with their training mechanism.
We've had to initiate training where we've had to limit our numbers. We've also had to look at how we're going to do the training. Some of our training has been virtual. Some has had to be in person because of the volume of work that it requires. So we've had to do a lot of training, but so far we've still managed to have about 73 persons that would have been trained in shelter management as well as initial damage assessment for this particular season, and that's still good given the fact that we're now facing a pandemic here on the island.
However, she's reminding residents to remain vigilant as storms can still occur once the season has ended, so you must always be prepared. Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
The Ministry of Health releasing the latest COVID update. The numbers showing a total of 5,923 confirmed cases throughout the country. 2,236 are active and 3,525 are recovered. According to the dashboard, 150 new cases were confirmed on Monday. 81 are in New Providence, 1 in Abaco, 1 in Andros, and 67 are pending locations. Of those new cases, 59% are females, 40% males, and 1% is listed as unknown. There are a total of 119 persons currently in hospital. 108 are listed as moderately ill, and 11 are in the intensive care unit. Of the total hospitalized cases, 16 are in Grand Bahama, 3 moderately ill, 5 persons are in ICU. Now, there have been 124 deaths to date. 24 non-COVID deaths and 14 deaths are currently under investigation. In other news, it's week 2 of the new school term. COVID-19 has resulted in the late start of the term, and it has also caused a change in the way classes are conducted. But tonight, a local union official says, had it not been for COVID-19, this term just might have been one of the best in recent times.
I think if it wasn't for COVID, this would be a stellar year, a banner year in terms of the opening of school and the related challenges that come along with it.
Area Vice President of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, Quinton LaRota, expressing a very positive start to the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year. He says with all things considered, the first 2 weeks of school have gone really well. He commended teachers for what he calls their courage during this time, as well as administration for their management.
1 or 2 exceptions with certain things, but there wasn't anything that between the shop stewards and the administrators or the superintendent, Ivan Butler, and myself, that we couldn't really work out. And so that was encouraging as well, because in a time like this, you need all hands on deck and you need a high degree of cooperation in order to have the kind of success that's needed. And so we are now exactly at about 2 weeks and a day perhaps. And so for the rest of this week and early next week, we'll have to look to see if there were any cases, because I think it takes about 2 weeks for the cases to manifest themselves fully. And if there are no manifestations of new cases or outbreaks, and then you say, well, that went well, and you continue to enforce the things that led to the type of success.
LaRota says that thus far, he has only received 1 complaint from a parent.
When school out afterwards, sometimes in the evening, when kids are waiting on their parents, they tend to gather because it doesn't impact the young like it does adults and the elderly. I think they're less afraid and less mindful, and so perhaps remind them a bit more of their obligation to their older parents and grandparents at home. That'll probably go a long way with them. But so far, in terms of COVID, I think we've done well.
While most schools have returned to face-to-face learning, he says that there are some that have undertaken a hybrid model. He says this too is going quite well.
There are one or two schools that say they have some shortages. In fact, surprisingly, one of the schools had a shortage in generalists. That was Freeport Primary. Those have been addressed or are being addressed. We have a shortage in some areas at the Malrock High School, and I think that is also being addressed at this time. The virtual education, one of the things it has done, it has provided a stopgap for when there are shortages. You could sign on to a platform, sign on to a school, and still have the kids have classes or be educated. And so that's one aspect of the virtual education that is a positive thing.
One of the major concerns in past years is the continued upkeep of the schools. LaRota says that this year, all schools received the necessary structural upgrades, with the exception of the schools damaged by Hurricane Dorian in the Eastern District.
We still have the schools in the east have not even been attempted repairs at those. And so the next phase would be to see when the work up there would start. The communities up there, I imagine that is a burden to travel all the way to Freeport to get educated, to have their kids educated. And so we look forward to seeing when the work will start up there and we could get the children from those communities back in their community environment.
Last night, residents of East Grand Bahama shared their views on the Grand Bahama Power Company. Among them, one consumer who made an appeal for assistance in understanding her bill and the metering system. While her appeal was answered as officials visited her home to conduct a meter system test, and our news team joined them. Here is Shashina Rowe-Farquharson.
Seen the story last night, and we wanted to reach out to the single mother of two just to help her better understand her energy usage and how that might be impacting her bill. Also, we wanted to test her meter to ensure that her meter is working accurately, to ensure that her billing is right, and just to basically see how we can be of assistance to help in any way that we can from an energy efficiency standpoint or from an informational standpoint.
I'm actually grateful that Grand Bahama Power saw the story and thought to actually come out to see and hear the concerns personally. I know oftentimes we send a plea cry, we have issues, we have challenges, and the person's responsible, they see the story themselves and they never really respond to it. And so I'm very happy and grateful that they're here today so that they can, I guess, properly educate me on why the usage is the way it is.
My name is Brandon Roxbury. I've been with the power company for 12 years. I'm currently the metering supervisor. I also assist customers with audits, understanding their bills, testing their meter. Today I'm here with Ms. Lottie Strawn. She's our billing expert. We're here together to assist Ms. Edgecombe, walking around her home, helping her understand which appliances use what, better managing her bill, understanding her bill. We'll also be today testing her meter. If the meter were to fail or if the meter has an issue, we credit the customer if it's an issue on our side. So, Ms. Edgecombe, we're here to help today. So you've been using any AC, dryer, water heater, anything like that?
Air conditioner I use basically at night just before I go to bed. So I have it on a timer where I turn it on only at 9 o'clock, and just as I get up in the morning, 6:37, I'll turn it off.
Okay. Yeah, do 8. If she's saying just in the night. First do the amperage with nothing on so we can get an idea of what it would be with nothing on. So one leg, 3.2 amps. And the next leg is 1.1 amps. So we can do a calculation with nothing on to see what the bill would be with nothing on before we start to cut on appliances.
4.9.
Cut on the hot water so the heater could cut in.
14.7 and 24. It go in. So
Let me check the next leg. The stove back on. Let them cut the stove back off.
The hot water heater up to 28 just now.
GB Power found that the excessive use of the hot water heater was the main reason for the increase, and suggested that it is placed on a timer to assist in reducing the bill.
Your consumption normally ranges within that 300 to 450 kilowatt hours. When your water heater kicks in, it goes higher. And so we realized that based on the water heater kicking in every so often, it will double your kilowatt usage. Okay, so when we calculated that first kilowatt hours we got without your water heater being turned on, without your stove being turned on, you would have received a bill of basically around $200 and something. When we did with the water heater turned on and the stove turned on, it was well over $500.
Another safety concern made during the observation was the location of the meter box and its installation. Additional tips were also given to Martha to help her reduce her bills. She agreed to follow those tips, and we will be back in 1 month to see if it actually works. Shashina Rolf-Arkeson, ZNS Network News.
My name is Stefana Roll. I am a youth leader at Church of Christ Apostolic. I would just like to share a word of encouragement with you all today. Know that the Lord has us all in the palm of His hands. During this unprecedented time dealing with COVID-19, I want to encourage you to be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might, as Ephesians chapter 6 verse 10 to 12 tells us. Stay prayerful and meditate. Cover yourselves, your family, and friends by the way of prayer. Encourage your friends. Speak a positive word into their lives. God is faithful and He will not fail us. He will not leave us by the wayside. The Lord is in you. He is always with us, and He wants us to cast our burdens upon Him. During this time, take advantage and utilize platforms such as Zoom, Facebook, and ones that I did not mention by name that people are using to share the Word of God. For some, this is a challenging time due to many people losing their jobs or even being unable to socialize with close family and friends. If you lost a job, from today on forward, know that the Lord is in control and He will bless you with the job that He has for you in His perfect timing. He won't leave you nor forsake you. Do not panic, because panicking is not the solution. Whom the Lord blesses, He blesses. Also, do not be fearful in this season, because the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. It may be challenging, but it is still a season of blessings. Blessings are unfolding in the lives of many. When challenges arise, seek God on what He has for you to do in this season. He may show you to help someone. He may bless you with that perfect word. God has the final say. In Matthew chapter 6 verse 33 reads, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you."
Convoy of Hope making a stop in Freeport. That story and more when we come back.